Well, hello, you wonderful soul, and thanks very much for diving into the world of What Was That Radio. It's time for a conversation with Jack, the lead singer and guitar player in the band Kid Kapichi from Hastings in England. And they are gearing up on the 23rd of this month, which is September 2022, to release their second record, Here's What You Could Have Won. And it was a little over a year ago that I spoke with Ben and George, guitar player, co-lead vocalist, co-lead songwriter, and also drummer, in discussing the first album. And this is a band I think are just utterly world-class. One of the most exciting punk bands on this flipping planet. We as human beings have decided to call fucking Earth, man. I don't stop recording once I start, and there's no edits. It is what it is. If you're watching this before the release date, then you are a wuzzer, a Patreon wuzzer. So,
Come on. You thought about stopping and starting again, didn't you?
Yes, he did.
No, I didn't. You get early access to all the conversations with and a bunch of other stuff. To find out more about that, go to whatwasthatradio.com, select subscribe, dive into the detail, my friend. Here is a conversation with the wonderful Jack of Kid Kapichi.
Yo!
Mr. Wilson, what a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance.
You too, man. That is some good audio quality you got going on there.
This is a professional living room, Jack. This is a very professional living room.
I'm in the most unprofessional living room I've ever been in. It's not mine, so you'll have to bear with.
No, it looks very grandiose. It looks very, very England. I missed that because in Canada, everything's whipped together pretty quick with some wood 2x4 timber. So this looks really grand.
I'm looking after my mate's flat for him whilst he's in Southeast Asia. And he lives in some 200-year-old mansion. Well, a flat in a mansion. He's not that rich. So yeah, it is quite grandiose.
I'd like to start, after getting the context of where you're sat, by playing you something that you sent me just short of 3 years ago. Do you know what this is?
I love it. I love it so much. Still the best thing we've ever done.
It's incredible. Let's relive it. Oh, I'm on the wrong scene. Let's relive it.
Hi, this is Jack.
And Ben from Kid Kapichi.
All the way from across the pond, from Britain, where everyone sounds like this.
Hello, mate. You got a lobster for me?
Yeah, 2 pints of crisp, darling, please.
Oh, good dear, sir.
I'll have 1 fish and 1 chip.
Yeah, I'll get a bacon sardine and a wrap in a back.
Get on my pub! Get out of the pub! 1 spot of cricket and 2 spots of rugby.
3 lines on a shirt.
Hey!
So there you go. I hope you've learnt a little bit about our hometown of England.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers for having us.
Cheers for having us.
Cheers.
Lots of love.
Good day. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
I love it so much.
Yeah, I can vouch that it's still true to this day. Everyone does sound and talk like that in England.
Absolutely. There's a lot of completely and utterly correct facts in that 32 seconds, big time. How do you feel, Jack, the last 3 years have been? Because it's been such a roller coaster. And looking back at this audio soundbite, you've always been so brilliant in conversing with me on Instagram. You don't even know who I am, really, but I've got to know a few of the other guys a bit better through our conversation a year and a half ago. But when you look back and the Spine Farm Records signing a few months back, what are you proud of these last 3 flipping years, man?
I'm just proud that we've managed to do it, that we've stayed together. You know, like it's always kind of felt like there was no other choice. I think if you do well in music, it's because you have nothing else in a positive way. Like you have nothing to fall back on, because I think if you do have something to fall back on, you probably would fall back on it before you got to the point of success. So, I'm just proud that we kept going, especially when it felt like we were particularly tested and in the same way that everyone across the world was tested over the last few years, but especially in the music industry. So I'm just proud that we managed to get through the other end, and that there was that payoff waiting for us, and a team of people that believed in us enough to let us do what we wanted to do and financially support us so that we can do it. So yeah, I'm just proud that we've managed to do that.
But I think for me, it's the authenticity that has shone through from the start. The authenticity of being truthful with a matter of how your lives have been and where you're at and how it feels in that area. And then also in the fun that you've engaged, like looking at the new music video for IMVU, seeing your friends from Murderers or Optimists sneaking in there as security guards. I mean, that speaks to how you go about community-wise as well, in just helping lift all those around you. And it just seems so fun. You know, what was the first interaction you had with Spine Farm? Was that because of Mr. Dom from Nothing But Thieves and working with him? Or talk us through that process, if you may.
Yeah, well, we were in quite late talks actually with another major label, and we were very close to putting pen to paper. And we decided, there was a few reasons why. Just logistically, we hadn't signed yet, and we were about to. Everything was sorted, and then we went on tour with Nothing But Thieves, and it meant that we weren't able to physically sign for a few weeks whilst we were on tour. And basically, we just got approached by Dante, who is the A&R guy at Spine Farm and works for Universal, and he was just gave us a ring, and we spoke to him, and it was really interesting, but we kind of were still set in what we thought we were going to do. And then it was just kind of kept having conversations with them, and they just knew the album like better than we did. They knew every single song, they knew every single lyric. They really cared about what we were saying, and they really understood what we were saying, and they really were on board with the message we were trying to get across, which is interesting because Spine Farm are based in New York and London, so it's a half and half team. It's an American team and an English team, and the American team like just really got it. So I think that kind of swayed us, and before the end of that tour, we kind of agreed that we were going to go with them, and we didn't look back from there, really.
They've got some really exciting artists on their roster as well, and particularly in and around the rock side of things. One of the finest, most exciting bands out of the UK are Kapichi. One of the finest, most exciting bands out of Canada for me are Broken Love. And I had an incredible chat with Justin Ben Lolo, who's just a ferocious, almost like Hulk physique, but he's got such a gentle soul and he's such a ferocious performer as well. I would love to see you two guys team up and help them hit the UK and likewise the other way around, because Spine Farm just seemed to have this rock collective of really exciting bands. Were you aware of some of them before? Did you dive in once you were in negotiations to their roster?
Yeah, I mean, we looked into it, but we kind of like, we're a bit selfish in the respect of like, we want to make sure that there's nobody like us on that label.
There isn't.
You know, yeah, and there's like, you know, two ways of looking at it. There's either you try and find a label that is doing your sort of music constantly, and then, you know, you run the risk of being bottom of the pile of a load of bands doing a similar thing. Or you take a chance and you work with someone who is trying to maybe sort of rebrand in certain ways, in certain areas, and you are the only band doing that sort of music on that label, and you're always going to get those opportunities that come in for that. And that's how we saw it. And we were like, we want to work with them because they made us it very clear that we would be, you know, prioritized in that respect, and that there is no one else doing that sort of thing on the label. So anything that comes up is going to go our way, and we're going to get pushed down that avenue as much as possible. So that was our thinking with that in the first place.
And I say this with the utmost respect and not to seem negative towards Spine Farm, but the level of which, other than maybe the production side of things in the studio with Dom, but when I'm looking at music videos and looking at anything else you're churning out online and social media, etc., I've seen the same level of Kid Kapichi through all the music videos. There doesn't seem to have been an impact necessarily because you already had such a great team around you. Have you still got the same team that you're gearing up for and doing music videos, or how have they introduced their Spine Farm ways and this into that part of Kid Kapichi?
Well, it's a good question, and I would agree with you. But it's the same team. Like, you know, I think that team of people are the reason why we ended up getting signed to a major label. You know, so I don't think there was any ideas from the label of, right, now you're with us, we're gonna kick these people out the door and you're gonna start working with these people. They were the reason why, as much as the music was that we got there. So yeah, we still work with the same team and everything, and we've always put our everything into especially like music videos, because we think it's like such an important part of it, with the social commentary side of things and what we're doing. So we've obviously, the way Spine Farm help is financially we're able to do it without it being a massive stress. But the thing with before is we would always find the money. Like we we would never earn a penny as a band because we were making money, but every single penny we made was reinvested every single time. You know, like we were doing well, but we never took a penny home for ourselves because we would want to spend it on doing a proper music video. We would want to do everything, like keep up in the game, keep doing everything we possibly can. And I think any band worth their salt does that. So, you know, Spine Farm have kind of just given us the financial freedom to do that and not like kind of be broke. But they have also just like completely had our backs and gone, you know, it'd be stupid for them to want to sign us based off of, you know, the music videos we were making and stuff and then want to change it. So they haven't at all. They've completely, you know, that's what every artist hopes for, that you get to work with someone who believes it, who understands it and is able to make it possible. And that's all they've done really, which is the best thing you can hope for.
Yeah, I mean, I've got friends of mine who were massive in helping me decide to leave the commercial mainstream and build my own baby, which is now 2 years old and I think 10, 14 days or whatever. Two of my dear friends are in a band called Spirit Box that you might have heard of, which is Courtney LaPlante and Mike Stringer. And that was what was so crucial when they signed their deal a couple of years back, was allow us and allow our team to still coexist, to continue. And we will decide ultimately what we do with our art. And that's what's been really exciting about the last 3 or 4 years, is that more and more labels are realizing that if you want to make money, you are dealing with human beings and they do have souls and hearts and integrity, and they want to fucking make sure that they have the right say on how they're going to go about things. And that's why it's been such a great, even though there's been unfortunate things like Brexit and whatnot that are shutting down and making it really, I don't think people realize how difficult it is for bands to exist in Europe now. I saw Baby Strange, who was such an exciting band from Scotland yesterday, announce
we love them guys.
They can't go on tour, and that's heartbreaking because they're just clinical. So, but I don't want to dance into other points right now because we've only got 20 minutes together, and you've got someone else after me.
I have, which is a shame because we could talk all day.
No,
but we will again.
Well, and to be honest, mate, to make sure that I can build my baby and it's shrewdly grown, I work at Quality Foods, which is like a Tesco just around the corner. So my boss let me jump on the motorbike, come back, chat for you, and then I go back and stack some shelves.
Man. Okay, cool. That's commitment.
Which leads into, well, that's what I did when I was chasing radio as a kid from 13 to 22 years old. I worked in Sainsbury's and Tesco in produce. And that's the blue collar background that I'm from, even though I sound, you know, my mum's side of the family were very wealthy, but my dad's side were very poor. And so I never really understood the wealthy side of things to an extent. I grew into it, but that's why people thought I was bonkers when I left my job and then went and did this and then go back to stacking produce. But it's more than just the wage. It's the heart and it's the balance that it gives me to enable that this is great. But that segues brilliantly to Rob the Supermarket. Side note about the music video, I have to sass you in saying that wasn't a fucking supermarket, that was a corner store. But I think legality, you don't want to sponsor the big boys. But I just think that party at number 10, Rob the Supermarket, New England, 5 days on, 2 days off. This is what I spoke with at length with Ben and George last year, is that it's just the reality of how people are. And it just, it beggars belief that so many aren't willing to share the honest picture. And so it just seems to me that when you sit down and go, how do you sit down and start writing songs? It just feels like it just comes out within 10, 15 minutes because it's just what you were doing the last 6 months, 6 years, 60 years, you know, with the experience around you.
I think that is it, to be honest with us. Like, that is how I would have answered that question. It's not, we're never going to be that band that like sits down and writes like a sort of metaphorical song about, you know, meeting a girl in a bar or something. It's always going to be, like you said, we are like very community-based band. Like, we are affected by our surroundings and our environment and the people we live with, the people we work with, our friends, our family. And that's what we write about. And not because it's never really felt like a choice. It's just kind of all we have to talk about and all we want to talk about and all we think that we, you know, we don't think we're important. And we think like, you know, that's the only important thing we have to say, to shine a light on how we feel where we're from in this like small seaside town in Hastings. And if other people connect to that and relate to that, which they have, that's amazing. That was never our intention. Or not our intention, but never what we thought would happen. So when we sit down to write, it's just because it's like, it's cathartic and it's necessary, and it feels like if we don't, we will explode or implode. And it's just a way of saying what we want to say. And like I say, we never really knew if that would mean anything to anyone else. It's music for ourselves more than anything. And the fact that other people relate to it is both amazing and quite sad at the same time, that so many people do relate to that music is great. But it's also, it's kind of terrifying to know that there are that many people that feel as strongly about things as we do.
But that's how systems that are in place allow certain people to get to the top of that threshold to be the influencers of the others. And that's where I think the difficulty for some comes in, when you rise to a certain point and you're like, well, I am fucking really important now. I'm going to start saying shit. And that's when the authenticity for me starts to fade away from some.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can I just think you can see a faker a mile off. Like, I see it all the time, and I don't know, I think my fake dar is pretty good.
Fake dar.
And I think, and I think like in this genre of music, if you do want to call it punk, which I do, it's authenticity is everything. And if you're not authentic, like, you're doing the wrong music, the wrong genre of music. And because I think you don't choose to do punk, like punk chooses to do you, I guess.
Yeah, well said. So here's what you could have won, the second record that's out in a little over a week. What was it like working with Dom? And when it comes to these first array of singles that have been released, what are some of the things that just jump out of, wow, that was a moment. I'm glad that made it.
Yeah, it was really good working with Dom. Feel really, really lucky to have crossed paths with him. Like, he heard our first album, which was self-produced, as you are aware.
Yes, and let me interrupt you and throw that in as well. That's a great reminder to the conversation with Ben and George last year, is that's what I adored about it. You could hear that authenticity. So what was it then like to be with him? And I spoke to Connor and Joe several years ago, and they're such wonderful guys. So put it in a bow for me of, as you were saying, how that connection came to be, and then maybe what you learned production-wise and technology-wise through that process too, that you can put in your skill set.
Yeah, so like, as we were doing the first one ourselves, we learned a lot about that, and Dom heard that. I don't know how, and he got in contact and said that he would love to work with us, and we got together and we did New England. And me and Ben wrote New. So that's like one of my favorite songs on the album still to this day. And me and Ben wrote that song in the space of like a few days, and we were really happy with it. And that was like one of the first songs we wrote. So we got together with Dom and we recorded that. And pretty soon after, we were like, do you want to do the whole album? And it was kind of like one of them I thought you'd never ask moments. Because Dom's he's a busy guy. He's extremely busy. Like, I know how busy we are, and they're like, insanely bigger than we are. So like, we did the whole album together, and it was amazing. And not only like what we learned, like when it comes to the technology side of it, because that's more Ben. He understands that side of it a lot more than I do. I just kind of write lyrics and shout. But Dom like really mentored us, like, as a band as well, really taught us like what's important, and what we should be doing and what we should be expecting, and how to go about it. And then he took us on tour with them as well, and couldn't have hung out with literally a more genuine, nicer group of guys. And often you work with people like artists, producers and stuff, and whilst you're doing whatever project you're doing at that time, you're very close, and then it can fizzle out afterwards, and you don't really, that's life. But Dom is someone who's stayed by our side. We were around his mum and dad's house the other day, having a swim in the swimming pool, having a little pool party. So it's like we're still tight and everything, and he's just like a really, really fucking good mate as well.
That is wonderful to flip in here.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Okay, I think I've got time for one more thing, and because I never plan anything. I don't plan anything. I just go with the flow, man. So
good. Me too.
What do you feel that I haven't asked that you need people to know about?
Oh, Jesus, is that the question itself?
Well, look, I reached for it, Jack. It's the last 2 minutes.
I would say, God, that has put me on the spot with that one.
Well, let's rephrase it. What if there was someone in the Was a community, in What Was That Radio's community, that is like, I don't know, fucking Kapichi are? How would you describe yourself?
I would describe us as the noisy kids from down the street that you want to hate because they're revving their cars and being loud, but in reality, you kind of wish you were them because you know they're having a lot of fun.
That's well said. And that actually, that's what comes across in every single video.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, in all seriousness, if you're pissed off and you're not happy with how the world's going, because whether that be Canada, America, the UK, Europe, we're all going through a similar thing at the moment, and times are extremely tough. And if you want to listen to a band that aren't afraid to talk about that, and in fact relish talking about that, then give us a listen, because I think you would probably like it. And it's, you know, we're pissed off, but I think we're pissed off at the right people. And through being pissed off, we have formed a community of people that have created something amazing. And that's musicians, artists, but also just people who love music and feel the same. And it's a great way of feeling less alone and less confused in this lonely and confusing time, is what I would say.
Well said. All right, I'm going to give you some homework. If you recall it, I'd like you to pass on a message to the 3 other lads, which is to Ben. He is one of the most incredible mad scientist, stock exchange tracking nerds I've ever seen in my life. His facial expressions in that had my partner's son, Harley, who's 8, just howling. He was bent over. He couldn't stand up on the couch back here, the sofa. He was falling over the place. That was so good. Please tell Eddie that he is one of the most refined and yet subtle, cool, badass bass players. The way that he arches his back is going to mean he's going to be in a lot of damage when he's 65, but damn,
he already is.
Does it look good? And to George, you need to make a music video for the Bumblebee song, because I want to see that motherfucker dressed up. He's going to look so adorable as a bumblebee.
I'll make sure they all know that. And,
okay.
And yeah, Eddie's already feeling it. Do you know what we call that from headbanging the next day? It's called a bangover. And it's I don't know if that's has crossed the pond yet, but yeah, we call that a bangover, and he's definitely a veteran of the old bangover.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, well, look, Jack, this could have gone on for hours and hours, but I'm just so delighted that we got 22 minutes, man. I really appreciate it, and a massive thank you to Spine Farm Records, and to also Looters over here in Canada that are representing you. Sarah and Natasha are 2 of the best promo. Like in the 12 years I've been here, 13 years I've been here working with people in that world. Those 2 are some of the most genuine, authentic, and incredibly astute at what they do. So you've got a great team over here that are pushing you to radio.
Well, that's good to know. That's like, you know, meeting them and everything, even albeit via Zoom, was a big decider. So that's great to hear, man. And also, let's do this again when we can, and we'll do something that's not confined to a 20-minute, 30-minute thing.
Yeah, awesome. All right, mate. Well, I got to get back to work, and you got to speak to Rolling Stone or whoever it is next.
Yeah, mate, I love that you've got to get back to work, man. That is the most fucking rock and roll thing. That's more rock and roll than anything. So good on you, man.
All right, well, thanks, mate. Well, if What Was That Radio builds to where I think it can in the next 10 years, we'll be flying you here and putting on a show. But hopefully everything, it'll take step by step.
Yeah, it's coming, man. It's coming, man.
All right, Jack, I'll see you in a bit, mate.
Wonderful to speak to you, bro.
Cheers. Bye.
See you soon, man. Bye.
Bye. All right, there we go. Thanks very much for checking out that. It's short and sweet. That just flew by. There was definitely times in that conversation where I realized I was talking extra fast, because we could have gone on for 3-4 hours, and we will connect at a later date when this little publication press situation is out the way for Jack and the lads. And it'll be great to get them all in there, just working our way through the whole band at this point. But it was such a thrill after 3.5 years of emailing or Instagramming to actually speak with the man himself. So what a sweetheart, what a talent. And thank you for your time and checking this out. I'd appreciate if you're on the old YouTube or Patreon, throw down a like or a comment. That would be a bonus. I don't expect anything. But if you don't ask, you don't get, right? Oh, no. I had my rim shot turned down.
Average.
Okay, chill out. Whatever you're doing the rest of your day, and as whatever you do, what is my sign-off phrase?
He's forgotten it.
I have not.
He's definitely forgotten it.
I've said this for 13 years. Whatever you're doing the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself. And I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of it too, because we've got to cherish that positive. Thank you. Cheerio.